collaboration conversation is brought to you by Project Brickworks, the new ministry dedicated to equipping Christians to use their talents and gifts to bring others into a relationship with King Jesus. We created the collaboration conversation as a way for our guests to share about their upcoming projects and how they are using their gifts and talents that God has given them.
Today, we are very excited to have Mrs. Haley Dykes Johnson.
Hey, Haley.
All the way from Middle Tennessee. We attend church together, and so we've kind of gotten to know each other a little bit over the last couple of years. And I think we've even led worship a time or two. But as Sarah and I were praying about this new ministry, you just were really on our hearts, at least, especially mine, since I knew you better, to be a part of the team that's going to lead us, hopefully for the next few years. And so we asked you to be on our board, and you were gracious and said yes. So we're super excited about that. But anyway, that connection is kind of what got us started. But today we want to talk about you, your talents, your gifts, the projects that you've got going, and that kind of thing. So we are super excited to have you. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege. I'm a big fan of both of you ladies. And I just have so much respect for you, Sarah. You're an inspiration in how you spread the gospel in your industry.
Oh my gosh, that is so nice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Well, it is so nice to meet you finally, because I've heard so much, board members and, we've chatted via email and I've been a part of that whole thing, but it's so nice to finally meet you. And my mom cannot sing. Get it? Okay. Anyway, she cannot sing your praises enough. And so I'm really excited that you're here. But for our listeners who may not know you very well, would you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm a singer and I play the mandolin, and for years I've done music, even since I was a little girl. Most people that know my music know me from traveling with my dad. He's a guitarist. His name is Doyle Dykes. And I traveled with him for years, since I graduated college until I got married, about 8 years full time. So I had an album out at that time. When I got married, we started our family fairly soon. And I decided, okay, this is time to be a mom, and God will give me opportunities to do music as I'm a mom. And he's opened so many doors for me to lead worship, which I had actually never done before. And I have really just enjoyed doing music in such a way that you can join other people in worshiping together. That has just been awesome. So I love leading worship now and writing worship songs. And that's what we've been up to in the last 8 years since I became a mom.
I love that. And I love how you said that, because we have discussed this in other podcasts and then just between the two of us as mom and daughters, but just that our paths, God is just so good in redirecting our path when it's time to do that. And, and the obedience that we give in trusting in that, and the faith that we have in trusting in that, he just super overwhelmingly blesses us with new opportunities that we had no idea we would be passionate about or that we had never thought about. So I just love how you said that, because we've been talking about that quite a lot lately as we start this new ministry, and have been shaping that.
All right. Well, so you started this new little family, and I'm interested to know, and I know some of this, but how have you guys weathered the pandemic? How's that been with two little ones?
I have been so thankful. I've learned to count my blessings, because this has been a hard time for everybody. And I'm thinking, wow, this could be a lot harder on me, because I have my kids who I chose to stay home with. And they keep me busy. I don't have a lot, And then my husband and I feel like he and I have gotten even closer during this time, because we've had to lean into each other in so many different ways. His job looks different. We decided to homeschool. That's been a whole new journey. But we have grown together as individuals and as a family. And I'm just so thankful for how God has brought all of this crazy into the blessings that I know wouldn't have happened otherwise. So I am counting my blessings, and I'm so thankful to have had this year at home with the kids and learning with them, and we're all growing together. I came in pretty cocky with the homeschooling. I'm like, I'm fun. This year's going to be amazing. They're never going to, and now I'm like, okay, if we can get through this year, but we've gotten into a groove and it's going great. So,
well, that's awesome. Tell us, you have a little boy and a little girl.
Yes, Emmett and Emmy Lou. Emmett is 8, and he's our animal kid. He's a nature lover and science kid. Love him. He is so much fun, and he's really opened things up in me that I never knew. We have pet lizards that I never thought I would touch, and now I love them. I make little Max a salad every day and feed him crickets. And my daughter, Emmy Lou, she is so full of life. She loves music. She loves to sing. And she reminds me so much of myself when I was a little girl. So I just get to relive my childhood with her, playing Barbies and having girl time. So, and then Jake, I do have a husband and a daddy that goes on.
Yeah.
And he actually works with kids. He's in children's entertainment, but he's very educational. So he's been a real blessing in the homeschooling to have around for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, especially during this time when so many parents are finding themselves having to do this thing that they literally never planned on doing. I mean, the pandemic has just wreaked havoc in so many different ways, but I know that a lot of parents are like thrust into this world of education. And so that yay for Jake being on board and already having a lot of those skills.
Yes, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, so you mentioned going on tour with your dad for 8 years. And yes. I love my dad. And my dad's a musician too, but I don't know that I could ever, I don't know that would ever work. I'm just kidding. He's great. He and I have a great relationship. But I do want to ask you about that whole thing. What were your favorite memories like? What was it like being on the road? Just kind of talk to us about that 8-year-long journey.
Well, I grew up in a great family. I have just the most fond memories of my childhood. I'm very close. I have 2 older sisters and a younger brother, and we're all still really close, which is such a blessing. And I've been singing with my dad since I was, 5 years old, I think is the first memory I have getting up singing with him. So every weekend I would go, every summer I would go during school, and Mom ran the business, took care of the family at home. So when I graduated college, I told him, I said, I really just want to go for it. I want to go on the road, and I'd love to make an album. And both of my parents were so encouraging in our gifts. They really equipped us and invested in our gifts. When I wanted to play the mandolin, I got a mandolin, and he got the nicest one he could get for me at that time. And if I needed lessons, I had lessons. They really took the time to invest into our gifts and encourage us to pursue whatever we felt like we dreamed of pursuing. And I'm so grateful for that. So when I went on the road with my dad, I knew that it was going to be one of my favorite memories of my life, and it is. And we got along really, really well. We're so much alike that we traveled so easily together, I have to say.
That's good.
And yeah, I would consider my dad my pastor. And that time is, I know, one of the most special times I've ever had in my life. I learned so much from him about how to connect with people and how to minister to people and just how to do what God's given me opportunity to do now better. And he's such a pro. And not only is he a wonderful guitar player, he really knows how to connect with people. And I think of all the things that I learned when I was on the road with my dad, that's what I took with me the most, was just how to turn people to Christ with your gifts, not just to entertain them, but for them to leave with something they didn't come with, So
that's amazing. Let me interject this real quick.
Yeah, totally.
I had a conversation with a friend back in California on Thursday night, and I mentioned your dad and asked because he's in the music industry in LA, if he'd heard of him. And he said, oh my gosh, yes. And he was able to tell me the day and the time that he saw him. And it was in Tustin, California, and that they'd met at this record shop or something. And he said, my friend Kenny said, he was the nicest person he'd ever met. He was so blessed because, like you're saying, that connection, your dad does that apparently with everybody he meets.
Yes.
So yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, I love that. I just think that that's so, you really just touched on what we are trying to do here, which is using your gifts and talents to make a difference and to build your brick for God's kingdom. And I just love that he is doing that. And we'll talk to him soon. And we'll ask him about his perspective on the time on the road with you. So I just love that. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have any funny stories that you wanted to tell about those 8 years? Was there anything that stuck out to you as a fun memory?
We had so many fun memories. We had some really serious memories also. He actually had it was basically a brain tumor during that time, during that 8 years. Some people don't know about that.
Wow.
He had to have brain surgery in order to remove this tumor. And he actually lost the hearing on his right side after, it's a long story, but after the surgery, he went back to work before they told him he was supposed to. And I was so grateful that I was there to support him because he had really horrible headaches, like from the surgery. Oh, and when we were on the road, there were times that he was really sick from the surgery and the aftermath of all of that. And so that looking back, I know that we'll cry.
Sorry.
No, I feel like I was able to offer him something, that support on the road. I feel like what an opportunity for me to get to go with him. But I'm so glad I got to be with him during that time and support him and offer something back to him. So, but we definitely had a lot of funny memories too, just being daddy and daughter traveling on the road together, fighting over the music and where we were going to eat and stuff like that. But
what's your favorite, what was your favorite venue to play?
I have to say the most special memories I have, just because it's I feel like a cool place to be, is singing with my dad in the Opry. And I've sung on the Opry many times with him. And man, I'm telling you, there's just a spirit when you walk out there, all the amazing artists and so much character in that building, all of the history. And at the Ryman or the Grand Ole Opry Auditorium, it's just such an honor and a privilege, and the people are so wonderful. That is my absolute favorite memories with him, because it's so special to him also.
Totally.
Well, I obviously had never heard that story about your dad having brain cancer while you guys were on the road. So you guys don't talk about that a whole lot?
Oh, he has a book with a lot of different stories, and that's in there. And it was a tumor in his ear that was really close to it was all in his head. So they had to shrink his brain in order to take the tumor out. It was an insane surgery procedure. So he chose a more difficult surgery to preserve his hearing, and he ended up losing his hearing. And, it's amazing. A lot of people on the road were asking him, like, aren't you mad at God? Have you ever been angry that you went through this more difficult surgery, this really big decision, and you still lost your hearing? He said, how could I be mad at God? God is my friend. That's who I turn to in that time. So yeah, it's an amazing testimony for him. And he still has no hearing on his right side, but you wouldn't know that.
You totally wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, so the second time I heard him play, you had invited him to our church. He shared about your cancer journey. And
yes.
Again, we knew each other at church and things, and we were friends, but I didn't know you that well. And so I was shocked. I was like, okay. And he kind of, went into a lot of detail. Do you share about that very often? And
oh yes, that another testimony where I'm just so blessed and thankful that it's over. And I know a journey like that looks really different for everybody who experiences cancer. I had thyroid cancer, so when I was pregnant with Emmylou, I went to get just my first appointment with her, and they found a large lump on my thyroid. So they sent me to an endocrinologist, and he said I had several nodules. And one of them was the size of a lime. Oh. And when I looked in the mirror, I had never really noticed, like, you could see the lump in even in some of the videos that when I'm singing with my dad, you can see it, but I just never knew what it was. Well, I couldn't have the surgery until after Emmylou was born. So they did a biopsy, and they couldn't tell until they took it out and actually looked at the tumor. And so they were trying to decide, do we just take out this side? Do we take out both sides of the thyroid? And the doctor said, there's some tiny nodules on the other side also. Just to be safe, we're going to take the whole thing out. So I have Emmylou, I've got a newborn. Hello. Like, that's like enough, right? And so 6 weeks after she's born, I have the surgery. After they do the surgery, the big lump was not cancer. It was one of the ones on the other side. So had they not taken out the whole thyroid, it would have just kept growing, and I would have had to have it taken out anyway. So once they took out my thyroid, the cancer was gone. I had no treatments, no like radiation or chemo or anything. It was gone. So that part of it was like, thank God, that was easy. We're done. Okay. After the surgery, I had a complication. It's called hypocalcemia. My calcium level dropped like a day and a half after I left the hospital. And thankfully, my mom had wanted to help me with the baby and Emmett, who was 3. And she said, why don't you just come stay with me for a couple of days? And thank God I was with her, because moms always know what to do, right? So I started feeling terrible. And I told her, I was like, I don't feel right. I'm in the car, and my arms drew up. My face muscles were hard as a rock. I couldn't move anything. My legs drew in. It felt like a stroke is what it felt like. Like you've seen people, their muscles draw up.
Yeah.
So when your calcium goes down, your muscles they draw in. So I thought I was going to die. She took me to the emergency room, and they figured out it was my calcium, and they were able to, I actually had to go to ICU for a few days, but after a few days of treatment with the calcium and pills for calcium for a while, I was back to normal. But it was just, it was a journey that we didn't expect, because you hear of all these complications that can happen during surgery and like, oh, that's not going to happen to me, and it did. And I just never dreamed that would happen. It was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me personally. And then Emmy Lou, when she was a baby, she had some issues also. We had to take her in. So that season was really trying, really challenging. But I look back now, I remember a couple of moments, and I don't want to talk too long, but I remember talking to my sister Holly, actually, and my grandmother, my dad's mom. And both of them said the same thing at different times. They said, one day you're going to look back and this is all going to be over, and you're going to have a testimony to share with people. And I have never forgotten that, because God, every little thing that went wrong during that time, God has turned around. And I'm just so thankful for health and my family, and to be on the other side of it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And amen.
Yeah. Amen.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it was very touching to hear your dad tell that story too. Just, you can tell how close you guys are. So
yes.
I just love that you had surrounded yourself, and that you had these spiritual advisors kind of directing you and encouraging you in that really, really dark season. And I think that literally everybody goes through those seasons, and it's praising the Lord through those storms and through those seasons that creates a stronger faith, but also, like you said, a stronger testimony, and you're able to encourage people through that. And so I just wanted to commend you and thank you for sharing that story with us.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So as you know, being on our board, that our mission with Project Brickworks is really to inspire and cultivate gifts and talents within other people, and to encourage them to use those gifts and talents to further God's kingdom. That's what we're all about, in whatever capacity that looks like. And we know, as we've discovered over the last 2 months of starting this, that it's going to look like a lot of different things. And we're prepared for some of them, and we're not prepared for others. But we're excited about it. But I wanted to ask you specifically, I want you to talk about the gift of singing, and how you talked about how your parents really cultivated your talents and your interests. But what do you think are your talents and gifts, and how are you using them in your day-to-day, in your work, in your parenting, and things like that?
Well, growing up, being able to travel with Dad and sing and play and write songs kind of started. The purpose in my songs was always to send a message to people, basically to spread the gospel. But also, I feel like my dad and mom both always had the gift of encouragement, not just in front of a crowd, but just one-on-one with people. Just always to leave somebody with something that would lift them up, and encourage them also to use their gifts. So when I would sit down to write a song, even when I first started writing as a teenager, I wanted those lyrics to have a purpose and to leave the people listening with something, to teach them God's word, and to whatever they might be going through, to lift them up and encourage them. So I feel like that's been my mission with my gifts in the past. And my dad always said, when I was feeling nervous, we're about to get up, he always said, sing to him. So just to let my gifts be worship, just to use the gifts that God has given me as he gives me the opportunity. So.
Totally.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. That was spectacular. I just feel like I want to put that on a t-shirt or something. No, because I think, as we develop and figure out exactly what God wants this ministry to look like, I think it will be a lot of that. It will be a lot of not even just people in the arts, but people who have a daily, 9 to 5, and they just feel stuck, like they don't know how they can possibly contribute to the kingdom of God doing what they're doing with, I don't want to give examples, but with whatever that looks like. And so for us to be able to encourage people that they can be doing that in whatever job that they have. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I if you don't mind, I'll give an example.
Please.
I was having this conversation with my friend Kenny on Thursday, and I was trying to think of a secular job, which is a weird thing to be trying to think of, but your dad, he's a school teacher. Yeah. He is and it's not at a Christian school. So he is literally light in the dark, and he's salt to a lot of kids who don't have any good influences in their lives. And he's always known his gift was teaching, and he's just known that.
Yeah.
And so to watch someone in that kind of a field, right?
Totally.
So it's not just, leading worship. That not that that's easy, but that seems to mesh well
with sharing the gospel.
Right. Absolutely.
Versus something like teaching, or even you were director of admissions for a very long time, and
it was always at a Christian college.
that's fair, but you were still instrumental in people's lives. I mean, you have countless stories, and I'm sure we'll talk about them someday, but I just wanted to bring it back to what you were talking about. Yeah. And it really resonated with me, and I wanted to really reiterate it, bold it, underline it, and point it out, because that's what we're all about. And we are so excited that you are on this journey with us. So I think now would be a good time to show the clip that we have of you and your husband playing with your dad. So let's show that right now.
In the bleak
that was incredibly wonderful and so special.
You guys sound so good together.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have to tell you, and maybe I've already told you this, but I have to tell you, I shared that video with one of the other ladies who's going to be on the board, or who's on the board now. And she started crying.
Oh, so sweet.
That was not I wasn't expecting that reaction, but she just was so blessed. So it's just funny that the same clip that we're showing today, I've shown to folks before.
Totally.
Well, that was right before I was pregnant with Emmy Lou in that video very early. That was right during all that thyroid stuff. And I did forget to mention that my husband's a pretty darn good bass player too. So
well, if they didn't know, they know now. But yes, totally. And I think it's nice that you pointed out the season that you were about to enter into, and that this art that you guys are creating is so impactful, even to a stranger who just hears it for the first time. You just never know the art that you're creating or the work that you're doing, how it is going to impact others now, tomorrow, long after you're gone. You just have no idea. And so I think a key thing is just to be obedient and to persevere and to keep doing what God's called you to do.
Okay. So I'm going to go off script because you just mentioned your husband's a bass player. And obviously that's how I know you as a couple. Where did y'all meet?
Yes.
I don't know your story.
We have a great story. So on the road with my dad, he was playing with a mutual friend named Matt Ridenauer in Idaho. We were playing at a church out there, and they opened up for Dad. And of course, I was there with him. So I thought, man, that bass player Dad and I were talking about what a great bass player he is. And he's so versatile. So a few months later, I took a few trips by myself and did some shows by myself. I had little tours. And I was trying to organize one of them, and Dad said, you ought to hire that bass player that our buddy Matt had from Idaho. I said, you know what, I'm gonna do that. So he and I had stayed friends over the years, and we took this trip to Texas with a guy named Justin Moses, who plays everything. He's a bluegrass hero, wonderful musician. And the three of us, we opened for Ricky Skaggs, which was one of my favorite days.
Oh, yeah.
And, it was such an honor. And then we had a few other dates on that trip. And Jake and I we had been friends for a while, obviously long distance, but we really connected on that trip. And we started dating after that. So when we got married, I was living in Cleveland where Mom and Dad live, and he was in Idaho, and we decided to meet in Nashville, a little bit closer to my family. But yeah, we didn't date and very long. We got married, I think, within a year. So, but we've been friends for a long time. So.
Yeah.
I have to ask, does your dad take credit for that matchmaking since he encouraged you to hire him?
Oh, you know what's so funny is my dad really loves to be involved with things. So when we got engaged, Dad and I were on a show called Steve and Johnny in Chicago. It's a WN overnight show, married couple. They go all night. And
wow,
he flew Jake to Chicago without my knowing it. And during the show, Jake called in, and I was like, why is Jake calling in? And why haven't you called me earlier today? And he had been in the airport all day. So he comes through the door, asks me to marry him on the air. And yes, Dad, I have to give him credit. It was pretty awesome.
That's magical.
That's sweet.
I just got engaged, and that is so cool. I'm like on a high from like all romantic stories.
Congratulations, by the way.
But that is such a very cool story, and your dad should absolutely take credit.
Yes, yes.
I'm all about it. Well, so in our conversations back and forth via email about to prepare for this, we had talked about what an amazing journey you've been on so far in a fairly young life. And then did you have any special stories or things that you wanted to share? There was a few that were just like, okay, this is great.
Being on the road with my dad, I got to sing in a lot of places, see a lot of places, and meet a lot of heroes and people that meant a lot to me that I had listened to for years at the Opry or whatever, Alison Krauss and Chris Thiele and people like that, just heroes. And since when I moved to Nashville and became a mom, God really started opening some new doors. And one thing I love about Project Brickworks is that you're connecting artists with each other. I had never co-written a song when I moved to Nashville. I'd always written by myself. And I really, like a lot of creative people, and very insecure. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to offer. I'm the weakest link always in my mind in the room. And so for the first time, I co-wrote with a man named Michael Farren, who's amazing worship leader, worship writer, and this guy named Shaun Bennet. First time I'd ever co-written, and Michael was our worship leader at the time. He really encouraged me. And we wrote a song called Amazing Still that went on a record called Churchouse Music. And since then, I've started writing with other people. And I'm like, gosh, why? I learned more in that 3-hour session than I did years and years of writing by myself, and just how different creative people offer different strengths in the room. And it really changed my perspective of working together, in this form of art. And so writing with other people and just being connected to other artists. I got to play mandolin for Chrissy Nordoff on one of her records. She's an amazing worship writer. And then I got to sing background vocals for Michael W. Smith's Cracker Barrel album, which was so cool. That's opportunities that wouldn't have happened otherwise, just being connected to people in Nashville. And those are things that I'm really, really proud of. Enough, I'm going to brag, but yes. God just has opened doors and given me opportunities still to be able to sing. And I'm so thankful. So.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And you're right. It's all about collaborating. Collaborating with him, God, collaborating with each other. And I love that you were talking about that, because it's so key. We can't do any of this by ourselves. And we have to lift each other up. We have to support each other. We have to, know our weaknesses and know our strengths when we enter the room to collaborate. And I love that you shared that with us.
Yeah. Okay, so you had mentioned earlier that you felt like your mom and dad did a really good job of, we call it training up a child, really paying attention to the gifts and talents. And if there's anything else you wanted to add for that would be great. But also, I'm assuming maybe you and Jake are being somewhat intentional with your kids too. I've seen a lot of dress up on Facebook.
I feel like Jake and I are, we have a lot of the same personality traits, and that can be really good. And also, like, we're both the creative, flaky, spacey, spontaneous type. So I feel like we cloned ourselves, is what my family has said. It's like mini Jake, mini Emmylou, or mini Jake, mini Haley. And it's like, we didn't want to force them to be into music or to be into anything. We wanted them to be who God created them to be, and just see what they're into on their own. But man, once they showed any interest in music, we were like, yes, we'll do anything, please. So they've been on stage singing with us, and Emmett plays drums, and he picked that up really fast. And we always brag on that he was matching pitch at 3 months old. And he brags on that. But even that tiny, we were just like, please be musical. But like I said, with Emmett, he is into things that, I never dreamed I would own a snake in my house, lizards in my house, but you'll do anything for your kids, Right. So we have really tried to invest in his love for creatures and God's creation, because he really has a gift to connect with nature and animals. That is his thing. And he's really confident in that. And so we have a lot of pets, and I have really come a long way, and that's all because of Emmett. And I'm actually really thankful for that. And with Emmylou, when she was dedicated, our pastor, Charlie Weir, at the time in Franklin, he prayed over her, and he said, may she have a song in her heart like her mom. And I'm going to tell you, that little girl loves to sing. And she has a beautiful voice, and it's so awesome just to see how God, and I just had a conversation with them today about doing the Christmas service at church. And I said, you guys have a gift to sing. And when you sing, it blesses people's hearts, and you need to get up there and do it. So I was encouraging them today about that.
I think that sometimes we get kind of caught up in our own dealings, or our life's going to look like, and our goals and our dreams and our hopes and our ambitions and all of those things. And, when we're fairly me-centered, we forget when we have kids that God's put them in our care. And, my three are very different from each other. And
then very different from you two.
Well, that's true. Yeah. We didn't have any clones. But just that idea of paying attention, we talked about this in one of our first podcasts. I was an athlete, so I wanted her to be an athlete, and she ended up being an actress, and it just was so disappointed. No, I'm kidding. but it was that paying attention, right? Her first play, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start paying attention to this. And she did 35 plays before she went off to college.
Oh, wow.
He just kept driving her to auditions and kept driving her to rehearsal. And so I love that you're doing that with your kids. And I do know that, your daughters maybe have that acting bug too.
She does have a lot of personality.
She does.
She sure does.
Yeah.
They do a lot with their daddy too. So he involves them in his shows a lot. So he gets them up there like my dad did,
Oh my gosh. And that's perfect. So you just said that and I forgot about this. What is this? What have you guys been doing with one of the TV stations in Nashville with the kids?
Oh, yes. It's the local PBS station. And they have these reading little shorts, like a minute long, to encourage parents to read with their kids or to do math with their kids at home and how you can make it fun. And so they've done 2 with Jake and Emmy Lou and 2 with me and Emmett. And they just came to the house and we did like Emmett and I baked cookies together and he was doing math, measuring everything out. And then Jake was doing music with Emmy Lou to help her learn her letters and stuff like that. It's been a really neat opportunity to have projects with the kids. And sometimes I think we take for granted that they get in front of that camera and just do their thing, they're used to it,
That's so funny. But that's been something you guys did during the pandemic, right?
Yes. The first one was before. And then after our friend Shaun, who works over there, he said, I really want to do more of these. How can we make this happen? We said, we'll do it in the backyard. We just put a table up and we're like, we just didn't none of us let it stop us. We just kept it going. Yeah. And it was really neat to have those projects too, as a family to do together. So
totally. So speaking of projects, what is new? What's next for you guys? What kind of projects do you guys have coming up other than PBS?
Well, Jake, he had to start doing a lot of virtual shows when the pandemic hit because he does a lot of schools and libraries and obviously they weren't gathering. So every room in our house, I'm talking down to the bathroom, had some sort of equipment in it that he was recording himself, videoing himself. And I told him, I was like, I need one room in the house. And I thought, I'm just going to take advantage of this. So I started making some YouTube videos and I called it Word and Worship. And I would take time of God's word that I had read and my personal worship and write like a mini song. Even if all I had was a verse and a chorus, I would share the message that God put in my heart and then share the song that came out of that just because that's how I emote as an artist, right. And that's how I worship also. And so I shared I think I have 5 or 6 videos. And I told my dad on the phone, I said, you know what? I think these songs might be the start of a new record. And I really want to make a new record. So I told him, I said, that's my goal. I want to get back in the studio next year. So we're planning in January to get back in the studio and I want to record a new record. And I'm super excited about just having new ideas, fresh ideas and new songs. And who knows what God will do with it. I'm just going with the flow. And like you said, just being obedient and I don't have a real concrete plan, but I know that God does.
There you go. Congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you so much.
I followed along every week when you would release something new. I watched and such a blessing. So thank you.
Thank you.
This can be exciting to see what comes out of that.
Yeah. And when that releases, you definitely have to tell us so that we can bring you back to talk about it. And because like you said, you don't have any concrete plans, but God does. So we'll be able to talk about what you had no idea God was going to do with this. So
Amen.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Well, and one, just a little plug for an upcoming episode for us, because of our connection with you. you have been very gracious, and so has your dad, to talk with him about it. And he's going to be one of our guests in about a month, I think. So we're really excited. We don't, we've never met him, but
yes,
from everything we've heard, he's super gracious. So
spectacular.
Yeah. So
he is really looking forward to that. And I know that he's excited to get to meet you guys. And I'm excited that is working out.
Yeah, this will be fun. And especially since this ministry is kind of headquartered in Chattanooga, and that's kind of close to him.
Yes.
It'll be great if our paths cross more in the future as well. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I really can't express how grateful I am to you for coming today and sharing your heart and just all of the encouragement and wisdom that you have. It's been really a blessing to me, and I hope obviously a blessing to our listeners. Where can we stay in contact with you if our listeners want to follow you or anything like that? Do you have social media that you'd like for people to follow you at?
Yes, my Facebook is just facebook.com/Haley online, HALEY. And that's my music page, has been for a long time. I always put updates on there. And yes, thank you. And I am really excited to be a part of Project Brickworks. And I can't say enough what an honor and a privilege it is. And I can't wait to see what God does through it. I think it's going to be really big. I am so excited. Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you so much. That is so sweet. And we are so blessed to have you be a part of our team, launch team.
I know.
I mean, day one launch team. So, and we're excited to grow with you as well in that.
Yep. Well, thanks for being with us today. For our listeners, if you want more information on Project Brickworks and how you can get involved, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Follow us on Instagram, like our Facebook page. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and turn on notifications. We love you. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.